I'm your favorite magic channel's favorite magic channel. Best believe that the professor go bananas for my deck techs. I come correct like a porn star, slicing up all these other suckers with my sword Mars. What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG on the YouTube.com. Down there we enjoy Magic the Gathering, you know by now. And today, super low budget deck for you. It's going to cost you all of $5 American dollars. That is one paper Abraham Lincoln. And it's a pretty fun deck that allows you to play a bunch of cards really fast. Let's talk about Mono Red Improvise. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off by talking about the 23 creatures in the deck, 11 of which can be improvised into play. That's half the creatures almost. So let me show you those real quick. We're going to play 4 copies of Sweatworks Brawler, 4 Enraged Giant, and 3 copies of Freejam Regent. All these creatures may not look like much, and they certainly don't cost that much, which is good luck for us. This isn't a wrapping deck tech, but those were bars. But anyway, I've actually really enjoyed all of these guys. Sweatworks Brawler can often come down on turn 2 as a 3/3 Menace. A 2-mana 3/3 Menace is a crazy deal. And sometimes, like on turn 3, this will be just 1 mana, and you can fit a bunch of other stuff on top of it that same turn. So Brawler's awesome. Brawler's really good. Enraged Giant is like even better. This will often come down on turn 3 and go ahead and swing in for 4 with Trample. That's awesome. Like the fact that this thing has haste is absolutely invaluable, you know. Just comes in and blitzes the opponent immediately. That's super sweet. And this is also kind of good against Saheeli, you know. If they're on the play and they play their Saheeli turn 3, well, your turn 3, just run in Enraged Giant and bust that Saheeli in the mouth. As far as Regent goes, the jams aren't quite free. They usually cost at least 2 red mana, but you can get this on turn 3 or turn 4 very easily, just like the Giant. And just like Giant, it's a 4-power creature that you play early. But this guy flies, he pumps, you know, he's a good mana sink for late in the game, you know, or if you flood, maybe the game went longer than you really wanted it to. Having a mana sink like this is really nice. And this can be a good finisher too, especially if the opponent doesn't have any flyers. This can finish the game in just a couple of turns. We're playing 12 other creatures in the deck, most of which are artifacts, but I want to go ahead and get this regular guy out of the way. I feel like we have to play 4 copies of Inventor's Apprentice in the deck because Nerd Ape goes pretty good as your 1-drop in a deck that has 16 artifacts in it. You know, there's a bunch of artifact synergy in this. We're looking to improvise. We're looking to play artifacts super early. We got 0-cost artifacts and stuff, so Inventor's Apprentice just seems like we definitely have to play 4 of her. Speaking of 1-drops, we're also going to play 4 copies of Bomat Courier, which you probably saw coming. This is a haste creature, which is pretty sweet. You know, you want to attack on turn 1. That's pretty cool. And it's obviously a very cheap artifact for Improvise, so lots of reasons to play this. I really don't think we can get away with not playing it. There's a fair amount of artifacts we could play in the deck, you know, but I just think that Bomat Courier is probably the single best one. He can also sack to draw you a couple of cards in the late game on an empty hand. That's always really important. And he gets like pretty big off of Built to Smash. That's cool too. So Bomat Courier is just always better than he looked because he always has a lot of stuff to do. To finish off the creatures, I'll tell you about the 4 copies of Ornithopter that we're playing. Now, this is obviously so we have a 0-cost artifact for Improvise. We need those as much as possible. But this is also kind of good on attacks occasionally. We're playing 2 different pump spells, and this can hit for at least 3, if not 4 sometimes. It can also, with an Invigorated Rampage, the thing that gives it +4/+0, just come out of nowhere and trade with a Heart of Kirin in combat, which is super relevant. But it's mostly in there, obviously, because it's a 0-mana cost artifact, and we want to improvise stuff into play as early as turn 2, or even like turn 1. Like, it's not unheard of to get Sweatworks Brawler in this deck on turn 1. It's fairly hard. It's not going to happen all the time, obviously. But because of things like Ornithopter, it at least can happen. And also because of things like Bonesaw, it can happen. Check out that sweet segue out of the creatures and into the artifacts. Nice job, Dev. A Bonesaw is the only other 0-cost artifact we're playing in the deck. I really don't want to play Cathar's Shield. I would just much rather devote those 4 slots to something better, which I feel like we have pulled off here. But anyway, we're definitely going to play the 4 Bonesaw, though. I like that it's an offensive option that buffs our creatures and improvises. And yes, you can tap an equipment for Improvise if it's equipped to a creature. So we need offensive options that pump stuff, and we need 0-mana cost artifacts. I mean, again, Bonesaw is another card that just seems like a no-brainer, and it can even go on an Ornithopter and just start swinging over for 1, which is a hilarious use, but occasionally practical. To finish off the artifacts, I'm going to play 4 copies of Implement of Combustion in the deck, which looks kind of weak, but really isn't. Hear me out. First of all, we need cheap artifacts for Improvise, which I've already said probably a dozen times in this probably 6-minute at this point video, but I gotta hammer it home. We need cheap artifacts for Improvise. This is a good one because it's on color and it draws cards for our aggro deck. It can also just deal a damage to a player, which is important, and really importantly, this can break up Cat Combo. Yes, it can. The same way you'll respond to Saheeli's -2 with a shock and kill her, you can respond to her -2 by sacrificing your Implement of Combustion and put her at 0 loyalty, thus killing her. So we've got an answer for Cat Combo right here that can also be a cheap thing for Improvise, bust face to the dome, or it can kill like small guys. Just like Implement is pretty good, and like drawing cards in an aggro deck is something you really would like to do. So Implement kind of checks all the boxes. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Implement. The card is surprisingly good. But let's get on to the spells here. We're playing some Burn and some Pump. First of all, the Burn, we're just going to play 4 Shock in the main deck. This is yet another tool against Cat Combo. I just described how to use it against Cat Combo, so I don't have to do it here. Although in that moment of exposition, I probably wasted a lot of time. Hey, I'm still doing it. But anyway, we do want to play Shock, if only for Cat Combo. But also, we're an aggro deck, and this is a 1-mana way to just hit people in the face. You know, we can just hit them for 2 a couple of times, and that'll really help close the gap or finish the game off. So it provides a little bit of reach too. Burn's always good for that. And it can just like blow away small guys that are in our path, which is also entirely relevant. Shock just does so much in this format right now, and it does everything that a mono red aggro deck wants to do, even if it's not Lightning Bolt and will never be Lightning Bolt. It doesn't matter. It still does plenty in this format right now, so we'll play all 4. As far as the pump spells go, we're going to play 3 copies of Invigorated Rampage and 3 copies of Built to Smash. And you can toy around with these ratios if you wanted to. 4 Built to Smash sounds okay, but I would rather have the option a lot of the time to kill a Heart of Kirin with an Ornithopter in combat. That you have to trade, but I still really like that option, so I went with the 3 Invigorated Rampage here. Now, Built to Smash is specifically good with Bomat Courier or Ornithopter. Either one of those is nice, but it can also work on all of our other guys. Heart is really, really good and can often make a creature survive a combat encounter it otherwise wouldn't, which is good enough right there. But it can also just make a creature like smash in for a whole extra lightning bolt worth of damage, which is also insane. Here's the lands. There's 19 mountains. There are 19 of them. I guess you could play like Inventor's Fair if you wanted to, but it's a couple of bucks. It puts us out of the $5 budget, where a lot of cards put us out of the $5 budget. But we could play Fair, I guess. 19 mountains is fine. Here's our sideboard right here, and we don't have a whole lot of options within budget in mono red. I'd like to play like Incendiary Flow or Kari Zev's Expertise, maybe Harness Lightning. I can see any of those, but they're all way out of budget, so we don't have much to work with here. I'll play the Welding Sparks against green-black counters, as well as the Pacification Array. We are very, very bad against green-black counters, unless we can strike very quickly. We are bad against green-black counters, and both of those cards are quite good against green-black counters, so we'll play those. Tears of Valakut is good against Heart of Kirin, so let's play that. Fireforger's Puzzleknot I rarely side in, but it is also another artifact, and it's decent against Saheeli combo at the very least. And then Built to Smash is in there again against mostly the green-black counters deck, but also Mardu aggro, so that we can survive more in combat and maybe kill more of their dudes. I'm not going to go through a full sideboard guide here because I think the sideboards are relatively easy to figure out in this one, but against green-black counters, again, a bad matchup for us. We can take out all of the shocks, at least 1 Inventor's Apprentice, if not 2. We can also lose an Implement if we'd like to, and we want to put in the Welding Sparks and the Pacification Array, and you may also want to find room for that Built to Smash. Against Mardu, I won't really do a whole lot of siding. I will occasionally put in Tears of Valakut. If I do that, I will take out some amount of shocks or maybe some amount of implements. But I will always put in that one of Built to Smash, which I feel like we can also lose either a shock or an implement for. Against Cat Combo, I really just want the Fireforger's Puzzleknot out of the board, and it even isn't the most effective thing ever, but it can at least work. So against those decks, I will often take out some amount of Invigorated Rampage or Built to Smash, because we don't need the pump as much in this matchup. We're not trying to get through other creatures, but we are trying to deal damage as fast as possible, in which case you may want the pumps. So if you're not comfortable taking out the pumps, you can also take out some amount of Bonesaw or maybe a Bomat Courier or 2. It's okay to lose artifacts because we're putting in artifacts. Here's your power rankings right here. A final score of 54, which is a fairly low score, obviously, but we're putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're very, very bad at certain things like resiliency. If we get blown out, we're in a fair amount of trouble. We're not super versatile, although we do have some answers. We've got a very, one-track mind kind of game plan here, so not a very versatile deck either, but we are fairly high in offense, we're pretty high in speed, so we do the things right that an aggro deck cares about, but there's obviously stuff an aggro deck couldn't care less about, and we do those things very poorly. That said, the deck is capable of some extremely explosive starts, especially with a couple of upgrades. I feel like Reckless Bushwhacker could go in there pretty well. I also like Kari Zev's expertise out of the sideboard. I think that would give us more options against some of the mid-range and even other aggro decks while we're trying to race, So there's definitely some upgrades you can put in here that wouldn't even really cost you that much money. So go wild, see what you can do with this thing, because honestly, when you get a good enough start, it's really hard for the opponent to keep up, especially if they miss a land drop or something. You're just all over them. So you've probably already got most of the pieces to build this deck. If you've drafted Aether Revolt a few times, you probably have a bunch of bulk copies of Sweatworks and Enraged Giant, You probably have a few copies of Shock laying around, like Implement of Combustion, you can definitely build this deck for super cheap with a bunch of cards you already own. If you already own a lot of these, it'll probably only cost you a buck or two to actually build this thing. So try it out. It is capable of some truly ridiculous stuff when it gets the right start, but it's an aggro deck. It's an all-in aggro deck, so if you get to turn 5 or 6, you might be in some trouble. But if you're an aggro player, that's your life. So you're used to that by now. Tapped out for now. That's all I got for this one. Fairly simple deck, yeah, but effective sometimes. So give it a shot. Let me know how you felt in the comments section and what could we change. And yeah, there's a fair amount of upgrades to the deck. I wanted to keep it right at $5. So that means that there are things, again, like Incendiary Flow is a good example, that are like $1 or $2. Kari Zev's expertise. Kari Zev herself even, maybe. So, some artifacts that you might want to play. Hope of Girper is 60 cents, I think, so I didn't want to play that. That ups the budget too much. There's a lot of directions you could go with this, so freestyle it and let me know how you do with it. In any case, what are we doing next time? That's also important. Next time, a deck I haven't discussed too much, but this was suggested by someone in the comments not too long ago, and I decided to try it out, and I've been having, way too much fun with this. We're going to do Barrel's Land Destruction next time. That's right, Baral goes kind of neat with land destruction because Wizards has done everything they could to make, land destruction not cost 3. It has to at least cost 4. Well, we play Barrel or Curious Homunculus on turn 2, then we can easily get a turn 3 land destruction spell and start beating face. So, I actually think that deck has been really, really nice. There's a lot of 3 and even 4 color Saheeli, for instance, decks in the format right now. So just taking out 1 or 2 key lands can be disastrous for people. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. Wait till next time and I'll give it to you. That's all for now. If you enjoyed the content, hit the thumbs up button. That helps me more than anything you could ever do. You can also sub if you're new, hit the notifications, share the video, or follow me on Twitter. There's lots of stuff. You can do that now. Follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev. That would also mean a lot to me. In any case, I'm Dev from SBMTG. It feels weird to give my Twitter handle and then say I'm Dev from SBMTG. We're going to have to figure that out. But anyway, thanks for watching, my wizards.